What up, folks of the internet, and welcome back to another edition of the ONETA Show, brought to you by PGE Creative. As always, I'm your host, Evan Davies, and welcome back to the show. Because today we have something very special for you. It is something that I truly thought I would never, ever do. I will actually be reviewing the new Taylor Swift album, Tortured Poets Department. Because I now have to ask a philosophical question that I never thought I would ever ask myself. Am I a Swiftie now? I, th- I think I am. And it's crazy because at one time in my life, you could easily say I was about as anti-Taylor Swift as you could get. I have heavy hipster tendencies that I have to admit to, where if something's too popular, I do start shitting on it just to shit on it. I can't lie about that. I still have it to a degree, but I'm working on that, trying to be a little bit more open-minded. And lately, as I've been listening to more things and trying new things, actually the podcast has helped with the video game aspect. If you've been listening to Smash Bros stuff that we've been doing with our boy Angie, even the movie stuff we've been doing with Dylan, or any of the other podcasts we do here on the ONETA Show or the ONETA Football Show, I've been trying to get far more open-minded and fair about my critique and my analysis of what I do. Which has always been a case for me. I'm always trying to be fair. But Taylor Swift was something that I don't know if I could be fair about, because her music at first, to me, I liked her early country music because it was very country heavy, and I am a country fan. And then she kind of became a bubblegum pop star, but it wasn't the kind of bubblegum pop that I was liking. And she became a star that I couldn't deal with. But I gotta tell you, Taylor, you've opened this curmudgeon old man's heart. I'll say it now. I'm a fan. I'm a Swiftie. And that is why we're going to be talking about Tortured Poets Department here on the show today. What I will say this, it's a wonderful album, in my opinion. Baseline. If you want to take one word analysis or one sentence analysis, that is what I would say about it. But I'm going to go a little song by song, and this is truly something I never thought I would do. And music reviews are not really a thing for me. I don't really understand music reviews because music is all about taste. Even more than movies have a construction. Movies, television, things that you watch, there are technical things that are involved. There are other things that you can involve. So musical review is not something I really get into, because even some of the most poorly written songs of all time can be hits and be catchy and great. Some of the most poorly produced songs of all time can be catchy, can be hits, can be great. So music's not something I'm super comfortable in giving an analysis or critique on. However, I thought this was pretty big because I think it speaks to a larger moment in pop culture. That's why I'm really deciding to go this. So I'm going to go through a few songs, just give a little critique, a little analysis. I have no idea how long the show is going to be, and then just give thoughts on the album as a whole. And also strike while the iron's hot. So one song I definitely I really loved and I enjoyed everything about this album for the most part. What I loved, I think my favorite song off the entire album, Baby Guilty as Sin. It's a little undercover, not ballad, that's the wrong word, but I love in this album how personal it gets. And maybe not to Taylor herself, but I love how personal it gets in terms of getting into the psyche of a person. Guilty as Sin is such a wonderful, wonderful song, in my opinion, because it really speaks to the moment that we are in now. Not that women haven't always had to deal with the problems that are covered in Guilty as Sin. They always have, because society's bullshit. We got to deal with that, and we still got to fix it as much as we possibly can and keep refining how we relate to people and how we do things. But I loved Guilty as Sin because it really Guilty as Sin because it really goes through the balance of a woman having thoughts that are thought to be unpure, sexual in nature, just desire. which is a natural human emotion that we all have, unless we are completely asexual, which, all due respect to that community, is not a large community, statistically speaking. Not to take anything away. If you're part of that community, good for you. Live your life, live your truth. But it's something that the vast, vast majority of the world can all relate to, whether you are a man or a woman. But especially in a woman in a Western society where far more pieces of the feminist movement, no matter which wave it is in, has gone into place and really taken some hold, whether it's fully fixed issues that we've had in the world or not. The fact that women still have to deal with the dichotomy of, if you are not a sexual creature, if you are not someone who is outwardly forward sexual, it's so easy to say, labeled prude, labeled, unfun, uncool, all this kind of bullshit terminology that you have to deal with. And yet, if a woman shows themselves to be sexually forward, to be sexually active in any way, unless it's perfectly within the rules that we've kind of confined in this Judeo-Christian world that we've kind of created for ourselves, so often women that are just honest about their sexuality, about who they are, how they feel, anything like that, they're immediately criticized. And that's a fucking wild concept to have to deal with. And sympathies, empathy, for sure, on that. And the fact that this song so perfectly encapsulates the fact that thought is something that can give us guilt. Our own thought gives us guilt. We feel guilt because of the societal structures that we believe in, give credence to, good or bad. Whether we like them or not, we give them to ourselves. The fact that this song really hits home, plays with the dichotomy of the modern woman, especially from the 20th century into the 20th century now, of not only are you have physical thought and physical action, now if you even have the thought of it, you have to deal with the guilt of that, which I thought was just such a wonderfully tied thing, and it gets into a lot of philosophical things that I really appreciate. I remember vividly, the reason I really appreciate Guilty of Sin, besides the fact that it's a good song and it really covers a great swath of material that needs to be covered more in society so we can get better as a culture and better as a whole in general, is I remember as I was starting to soften a little bit, where I could have the more mature response if I didn't like some of Taylor's music, if I didn't like some of the things that Taylor Swift fans did, or whatever the case may be. I remember talking to my wife, who is a staunch feminist, absolute advocate for women's rights. For context, she is a wonderfully talented OBGYN and abortion provider, which, say what you will about it, I don't care. I'm very loud and proud about her because she's great, and she's loud and proud about what she does because she's great at it and she believes it. And I remember her critique once when we got into a conversation about Taylor Swift a couple years ago was the fact that Taylor has the biggest platform on the planet. At that time, even now, it's beyond obvious. Taylor Swift is the biggest star on the planet. But even at that time, she had such an enormous platform. And it seemed like Taylor's music, Taylor's movements, Taylor's, general modus operandi, if you was, she didn't take a lot of forward risks to stand up for causes, forward risks to stand up for things. Now, this is my wife's assessment. Diehard fans might say, no, she said this thing, she said that thing. I'm not as familiar. But from an outward perspective, I think that says a lot, because even someone like me who wasn't into Taylor Swift's music, it wasn't a big follower of any kind at the time, could see that being a true thing, because even when a star like that takes a stand on something, what it is, it doesn't matter. When they take a stance on something that is hot button, whether it be political, whether it be cultural, whatever the case may be, it's usually remembered by the general public because of the status of that person. And I remember her saying, I just wish she was a little bit more forward and out there because I think it would help so many more. That's my frustration with her. And Guilty as Sin, this entire album, and obviously she's stepped out a lot more the last couple of years since reclaiming her music as her own, releasing all of it with the Taylor's versions and all that stuff. But she's been far more outward about how she feels, who she is, what she believes in, which I completely respect and adore. About anyone who's willing to do it, as long as you're not being a prick about it. And Guilty as Sin, that was the first thing I thought about. Was beyond the analysis and critique of it, was the fact that this is really adding to the conversation. Whether you listen to it or not, it adds to the conversation of what it means to be a woman in society. And from one little piece of it. And I really, really appreciate that. And it's just a good song. And it doesn't hit you over the head with, oh my God, I'm being demonized, but it's just straightforward, tells the message. And it's really great. And I really appreciate that. And I think that's a theme throughout the entire album that I really appreciate, is how much outward emotion, raw emotion, personal stuff gets into this that anybody can attach to, whether they're a woman or not. So much of it is just raw emotion that we can all feel on some way, shape, or form. So I really, really appreciate Guilty as Sin. Another one I wanted to get to right away because it's a completely different dichotomy, sort of, but has a really fun, unique vibe, is the title track itself, Tortured Poets Department. I'm a frequent, if you listen to the pod, you may have heard, may not have heard, especially if you listen to our movie episode. I'm a huge 80s movie fan. I track down a ton of 80s movies because it's not what I necessarily grew up on, but it's the stuff that I heard was, oh, it's great, you gotta see this, because it was the generation right before me telling that. I was a 90s kid, that's what I grew up with. So Tortured Poets Department gives me such Breakfast Club vibes. It's tremendous. Breakfast Club, top 100 film of all time, in my opinion. Absolutely adore it. Still relevant to this day because it's about relating to people, how we internally feel versus how we outwardly appear. I adore that because Tortured Poets Department has that fun little bop to it, has something where if you're not truly paying attention to the lyrics, you're like, okay, I can kind of get with this seems a little deeper, whatever. But then when you actually listen to the lyrics, it is seen as such more of a critique of someone who's now gained perspective on who they are. And I really, really loved that. As someone who's currently going through things of that nature, where I remember being in my young 20s, I remember thinking how self-important something was or how important something was. And now looking back 10 years removed going, what a fucking stupid idea that was, or why did I have my head so far up my ass about something like that? And it clearly doesn't matter. And I love the fact that it was incredibly self-aware, very self-deprecating. I mean, half the hook is we're modern idiots. And comparing ourselves to great figures of poetry and how self-important things can become and how self-importance can inflate to the point in which give off the vibe that your own personality isn't real. Even if it is, it can shown that. And I absolutely adored that storytelling element of this actual single track of Tortured Poets Department. I think it's such a fun vibe to be able to be self-aware and go, we're modern idiots. This, like, we're doing this, we're doing that, and I haven't seen shit out of this. What are we doing? Where are we going? And I really love that lens into personal journey, I think. And it's something that, one thing I'll say entirely about the album right now before I go into full-on album talk, thematic things in the album, is the fact that Taylor is growing up with her audience. I think it's hilarious. What actually has softened me the most about Taylor Swift is I just watched the Eras tour on Disney Plus about a month and a half ago. I had the kids I work with for spring break And I just kind of rolled the TV into the room because it was a bunch of girls and they were just hanging out and they were looking for something to do. And I was like, okay, I'll bring the TV in. At least we'll have something in the background as we try to play a game or play cards or whatever. And first thumbnail on Disney Plus at the time because it was fresh released was Eras Tour. Like, please, 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 please. And I was like, fine, we can watch it. And I was not very excited because I was still in the, okay, whatever, it's not really my cup of tea, but fine. And seeing their reaction and seeing Taylor's music really speak to them. And throughout the eras where they knew the old stuff, they knew the stuff from about 5, 6 years ago, they knew the stuff from now, and all of it really impacted them in different ways. And it was a group of girls that was anywhere from 5 all the way to 13, and they all had a personal journey with it. It was something where I was like, I really have not given enough credence to how important Taylor Swift's music is to culture and to a segment of the population that I just am not a part of. But to see it and to be impacted by it is super cool. And it helps you understand people. Something I had the same effect when I went and saw Wonder Woman. You know, cisgendered white man. I have plenty of heroes theoretically on screen for me to connect with. I understand representation through all things professional wrestling. CM Punk. I grew up a little straight edge punk kid. So seeing CM Punk, I was like, that's my guy. He's straight edge. He believes in a lot of stuff I believe in. That's me. I see myself in him. I saw that when I saw Wonder Woman, and I was, in tears in the beauty of the No Man's Land scene, but then turning to see my wife and several friends all in tears because they had their hero. They could see themselves on screen finally. It was like, I get it. Or the next year I went to Black Panther and saw there was a wonderful, wonderful group of moviegoers with us in Black Panther. And it was a group of, it had to be at least 30, 40 people. And they were all in Wakandan and African garb, Wakandan cosplay stuff, all coming to watch Black Panther and seeing the emotion in their faces and in their eyes because they finally had their character. They finally had their guy to represent them. And it is crazy how music, it can be underplayed, but I saw that in those girls when I was watching the Eras Tour. And so it really softened me up to go, okay, maybe I'm just missing something. And then listening to this music, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this one. That's not so bad. Oh, I forgot about this one. That's not so bad. Okay, I kind of, and then I just kind of was like, just give in. Stop being a stubborn, curmudgeon old man. Just go enjoy it. Enjoy the music that you're getting because it's wonderful stuff. And I think that's something I see a lot in the Tortured Poets department as an album whole, is I'm seeing the impact of growth with an audience. It's something that I talked a lot about in other aspects. You may have heard it in other shows as well, is you have to grow with your audience. You can't stay in one thing. You have to change and evolve over time to fit your audience's needs. And Taylor's gone from this young teenage girl who wanted to, play the chords on her guitar, play the strings on her guitar and sing a little poppy country songs to now she's the biggest global icon on the planet that is taking huge raw emotions and making them ballads and pop hits that the world over can tell you something about and connect with. And is going through the same experience that her audience did with her. Taylor's the same age I am, so it's kind of crazy. Or no, she's 3 years older than I am. So, but she's right in that same place in life to a degree. Millennial, going through changes of what life is at that time. So even someone like me, who's not necessarily a big fan of her music at first, seeing her go through those journeys, like, yeah, I remember that. It's something I loved about the single itself. Tortured Poets Department is it shows a reflection of growth in the music that is just wildly, wildly lovely. Because whether you're super artsy fartsy and kind of getting mocked in that way from the self-importance of poetry or self-importance of art, or if you're just someone going through like, Jesus Christ, I can't believe I used to be like that. We all have those moments of cringe in our lives that we all look back and go, oh shit, like, I can't believe. And it's fun to be able to see that reflected by someone who's evolving with them. So it's a really cool concept in the single itself. Um, just so many good tunes in this one that I just want to keep gushing and talking about it. Now, one I do want to share with you, um, share some thoughts on is Fortnite. I think Fortnite's the only one that's is closer to a traditional Taylor bop in terms of, oh, we're gonna make something with a huge mass appeal. It's not the same Taylor bangers as Cruel Summer or a few other of her great songs, but it's definitely something in which that is obviously the lead single off of the album. I adored Fortnite because it's just this weird, fun story of both self indulgence and self awareness, and the effects of being in this weird place of positivity and negativity at the same time that life is. Very cool concept. But ironically enough, what actually got me more into really trying this album is just a few days back, honestly. Family member of mine did a cover of Fortnite, and they did a slower, chill version of it. So I'm going to share a little bit with that here, and hopefully it's on YouTube. Go check it out for yourself. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. But we're going to go check that out as we go from Taylor's version of Fortnite over. Oh my God, where did I put it? Over to Dan Wheeler's version. So this will be under Dan Wheeler Artist here. And I'm just going to play a little bit for you here.
I'm supposed to be sent away, but they forgot to come and get me. I was a functioning alcoholic till nobody noticed my new aesthetic. And all of this to say, I hope you're okay, but you're the reason. And no one used to blame. But what about your quiet treason?
That is his version of great tune Fortnite, which I really wanted to share that because I think it's another great impact to show the range that this album can hit in terms of emotion through wide swaths of people. Not that she didn't have mass appeal before, obviously she did, otherwise she wouldn't be the global icon that she is. But it was really interesting to hear a lot of my coworkers who are traditional older Taylor Swift fans, young 20s or millennial women or elder Gen Z women that really love the classic Taylor bangers, the classic Taylor Swift that we all know throughout the world. We're kind of like, I don't know. I don't think I really like. I didn't really like, the album. I didn't really like Tortured Poets Department, and yet it inspired. The song is so unique and different and weird in the great ways that it is, that it can inspire someone like a family member of mine who Dan is in his late 40s, early 50s, I believe, and wonderful, talented artist. He's taught art before, the actual classical art, and has a wonderful degree doing that. And now he's branching into music a little bit. It was really fun to see his journey, but to get even him to go, wow, there's something about. I know his personality enough where it has to really personally pull at his heartstrings to intrigue him enough to do something like that. And to even get people like that going, like, oh, if I'm going to do something and I'm going to release it to the world and show it to people, it needs to be something I connect with. And to pick Fortnite off this new album was just such a really unique vibe. So I really loved his cover of it, and it just and then I already had heard Fortnite, and I was like, okay, that's a cool song. Let me really listen to this. Let me really digest this. And then I was like, you know what? I out of old habit, I'd kind of pause it when it go to the new song. I was like, I don't need it. I was like, why am I doing that? Just play it. Let it go. And it really helped me just go, no, just listen to the music. Be open-minded. Appreciate what you're getting. Appreciate those things. And it's Fortnite, but this whole album is really turning me into a Swiftie, which is insane. Because I listen to Ghost. Okay? I listen to Ghost. I listen to Rancid. I listen to the Ramones and the Clash. I listen to punk rock. I listen to metal. But then there's that side of me that loves like 80s bangers, just 80s pop bangers. I love that shit. And there's also that, country boy out of Wisconsin that just loves country music because it brings me home. All of those have a different place in my brain. Taylor Swift never really kept a place in my brain, and now I'm like, oh shit, this kind of works for me. I kind of dig it. So it's very interesting and unique dichotomy to see. There's a few other songs I really, really loved that I did want to speak about. I really love Down Bad because it's just the millennial life of heartbreak. Doesn't really matter if that one's so obviously relationship based, as the entire album is, but it's so obviously relationship based in the fact that everyone can feel it. But it's such a millennial way to tell it. The lyric, fuck it if I can't have him. Not like oh my god, I'm so heartbroken, so sad, and I'm going to be devastated forever. Classic dramatic tellings from old media. Such a millennial, fuck it if I can't have him. Like, I'm heartbroken, I'm devastated, but that's just how I'm going to blurt it out. Or, crying at the gym. The fact that so many of my friends, so many people in my life, whether they're into her music or not, into the music I like or not, into the same things that I like or not, so many people in my life of my age group or around my age group, we all have this thing where, we got to get to the gym, got to do these things. I'm not a gym goer. I'm not someone who does that. But I still have that societal pressure in my head and that good, healthy pressure in my head to be like, dude, you gotta go do something. Gym, you gotta go try to keep yourself in shape and do something. But I can see everybody that I know in some way just being like, no, I gotta do this, and crying at the gym over something very emotionally devastating or heartbreaking, like a breakup or like a fractured relationship. And it's so funny because you can see other elements out of it in which it's this weird dichotomy that we all play in much of the millennial life now is assuming we're not going to get to the places that prior generations did. Like, we're millennials now just assume, and Gen Zers especially now just assume, no way I'm ever going to own a house. Now, I'm not that person. I'm currently recording this video, recording this podcast inside the home that I own. I'm very happy with. Yes, I'm more fortunate than others, and I do cognizant of that, but it's not as though it's impossible. But the millennial existence is kind of just assuming that life isn't going to be as good for us as past generations in some way, shape, and form, in the fact that we're not going to be able to have homes, we're not going to have as much steady income, steady retirement, social security is not going to be there. Like, all these random things that past generations have all been able to have just through normal natural life. And we feel we're not going to have it. And Down Bad is very much, even though it's about a relationship, gets into those themes a little bit with, I love that line, crying at the gym, because it's very much I have to keep going. I don't get to stop. I don't get, whether I'm emotional or not, I don't get to stop. I have to keep going. It's a really interesting dichotomy to play with, where you're playing with these themes of depression, anxiety, sadness, heartbreak, loss, all these things in this song, and yet I'm moving on because I know life's not going to let me not. It's a really cool vibe with Down Bad, and I love it. And I also will say, just as general as this, I love how raw and honest this album is, and I love the profanity in it, because when you think Taylor Swift, you don't immediately think like, oh, she's just going to keep cursing through songs. It adds to the raw emotion of the lyrics and of the songs recorded on the album. It's not, let me refine this, tooth and nail down to the point where this is perfect for public consumption. It's just, hey, this is the raw emotion I want to put in the song, and I feel like these lyrics, this profanity, is going to help me do that. Really appreciate that, especially in Down Bad and Tortured Poets Department, the single. And finally, another one I really loved, because it's oddly gets into a little bit more of that older Taylor bop, but not truly, is I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Because again, it's how we all have to mask ourselves and hide a bit of ourselves sometimes, or how we feel like we need to. Again, it's that millennial experience, but it's an experience everyone can have. You know, of saying, I'm heartbroken, but I can still do this. I'm devastated, but I can still do this. I'm depressed, but I can still do this. I'm so sad, I'm going to act like it's my birthday. I'm so, you know, you're getting through a hard time, and sometimes the only thing you can do in those moments is just force a smile on your face and truck on through, man. And everyone's like, "Oh, they're good, they're fine, they're coping so well. Life is so good." And it really hits home the ideas of people crumbling inside and not being able to really be honest outwardly about things. I think that's why I appreciate this album so much. Why I am now like full on just be like, stop being an asshole and just admit the fact that you like Taylor Swift. Is this album in particular feels so raw, so emotional, and that song in particular, a lot goes into how often somebody has to do something they don't want to because they have to go through life. So Down Bad, but then I Can Do It Without a Broken Heart really hits me. There's so many days that I've had in my past. Thankfully, I don't have as many of those days anymore since I've gotten mental health care and treatment that I needed. Which, by the way, taking a pause from Taylor Swift and myself right now, you're someone who needs help. You need a shoulder cry, you need someone to talk to. You know you need help. Go seek it out, please. If you need help, go get it. There's no shame in that. It's the bravest thing you can possibly do. This is bringing tears to my eyes because I need to hear this too. Go get help. It's the bravest thing that you can possibly do. This is important. I think that's another reason I love this album. And that's my PSA message for you is go get help. If you need to, go get help. Go seek it out. Because it's important. Because life is there for you. You just need to be able to live it. And if you need the help to get there, there's no shame in that. So go do that. So that's the PSA portion of that. But that's why I love that song so much is when I'm first thinking about it outwardly, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, I felt that way before. Or I've had horrible things happen in my personal life. And within minutes, hours, days, I've had to just go, no, I'm totally good. Oh, I'm coping well. You know, things are tough, whatever. But look at me. I'm still doing my job. I'm still doing those things that I do. No, I'm still that happy-go-lucky kid you've always known. And inside it crushes me that I have to do that. Or I see others have to do that. Which is why I try to be as open and honest as possible. Just be like, no, today sucks. Like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want anyone to have to feel like they have to do that around me. It brings up these crazy thoughts and these crazy. Even I'm reminded of something that grandmother said. God, I might cheer up on this one too. That song brings up something in terms of masking that. I remember a little over a year ago, my grandfather passed away. And my grandma's obviously devastated. She's not coping well. Who would after losing a partner that many? You know, no shame in it. She's doing her best, just like everybody is. And so I flew back home and I stayed with her for a couple days. And I'm just someone who's so naturally anxious and jittery in the way I do, especially when I'm around scenarios that I'm not necessarily, it's not exactly my comfort zone. Like I'm comfortable, I'm fine. It's not like I'm dying inside because I'm in the situation. But I'll just naturally kind of bounce around, jump around, do a little jig to myself, whatever, because I have so much anxious, nervous energy. I remember her saying to me, you know, I just always love the fact that you're just always so happy and you're always so so fun and energetic and just always you're always moving and doing something like that. Just always because you're just so happy. And I knew she meant that as an ultimate compliment. But inside it was the ultimate cut. It was the ultimate wound because that's not why I do that. And to then get something as crazy as a song off an album from an artist that I've, out of stupid principle, hated for 15 plus years, to finally get me to think about things like that. Or to go, holy shit, there's something for me to connect with, even in a world where I thought there wasn't something to connect with. That's crazy. And it makes me appreciate the music even more. To remember those moments that are glued inside your head because they just hurt you so much because they were what someone believes to be truth. And you know it's not inside. But outwardly to someone else, it is. And to even get a fun little pop bop, you know, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, which is, I think, one of the closest songs to a classic Taylor song on this album in a lot of ways. Fuck. I was just like, I get this. I feel this. I feel it through this entire album. And it makes me really, really appreciate her art. It makes me really appreciate her, what she's doing as an artist. So those were the songs I really wanted to highlight. There's obviously other great songs. You know, I really like So Long London. I really, really loved Florida for the vocals. It didn't make a whole ton of sense to me, but admittedly, I've always, when I've been doing the analysis and I kind of get distracted by doing something else, Florida's always on. I like it, but it's kind of like, okay, cool. Yeah, whatevs. Love of My Life is extremely interesting. And Clara Bow, I think that's another classic Taylor style song of being discounted and not getting to where you're supposed to be. Or getting to where you're supposed to be while everyone's telling you you can't. Classic, far more classic Taylor throwback. Told in a different way, sung in a different way, lyrically a different way, but the essence is still there. A lot of great songs in the initial album. Then obviously, if you have access to Spotify or wherever else, you can get the deluxe or deluxe version of it. You know, the anthology. I'm looking at it right now. I keep wanting to say Dead Poets Society. The Tortured Poets Department, the anthology, to have 31 songs on this album. Also, another one that I absolutely love, The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. What a vengeful fucking song. Loved that shit. Love when someone just pours their heart and soul out like that. That's great. Really like that song. I like The Black Dog as well. So, the album in a whole has so many really good songs that can really play at your emotions when you're paying attention to the lyrics and really trying to get into something. And I appreciate that so much. Just, you know, to close up, just some general thoughts on the album itself. Album shows a lot of personal turmoil and far more tumultuous lyrics and melodies to the songs compared to her more classic work. And again, I'm still familiarizing myself with some of her deeper catalog because, again, I avoided her music, so that may be a little far off for a lot of the diehard Swifties out there that might be like, what are you talking about? That's always been there. But to me, that's especially a surface level person with her music now going a little bit deeper. That's how it appears to me. But I love the personal turmoil that's in this. And it feels just so more personal, so more raw, with less polish than previous music that I've heard. You know, obviously she's done a really good job of having music that people can connect with. So that's obviously there. But to see it, a whole album like this, not have that one banger is really cool. That was another thing. I think this album does lack the big banger it's lacking a cruel summer. It's lacking, teardrops on my guitar. Even if you want to go all the way back, um, it's lacking one of those big Taylor bangers. But it has hits and it has nice songs to go with it. I think this is the album that's going to probably be less regarded now, but is going to age really, really well because it's going to have more personal connection. It's going to be those songs that people are going to go like, let me listen to that again. Let me listen. And all of a sudden it's, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. As people are continually aging with her, they're going to be able to go back to those moments through the music. I think that's really, really interesting and cool. And that's where I think this album's going to age really well and going to be far, far more highly regarded by the fan base and by just critics in the genre in general later on than it is immediate. And I think that's also because the biggest thing I love about this from just an outward culture perspective, this is a super ballsy, super guts action to release this right after the smash hit that is the Eras Tour. The Eras Tour is a celebration of near 20 years. I guess probably 20 years at this point, of 20 years of music. An entire lifetime's worth of music. The Eras Tour reminds you and creates the status that Taylor Swift is the biggest global icon. She is the biggest music star on the planet. She is now of the category of 3 other acts in history, being like Elvis, the Beatles, and Michael Jackson. She is of the 1 and 2, and in my opinion, because of how diverse offerings have gotten, because of the internet and how easy it is to avoid things you're not crazy about. And like the fact that she is of that status now, I think she's the biggest music star that's ever existed. And the fact that this album doesn't have a classic style banger, doesn't have that super commercial ready to go, hook bait you get you in that you can play during a commercial, like you can play during a dance party, that you can play while you go to the Friday night skate at the local roller rink, whatever the case may be. What a weird reference, but whatever. The fact that that song doesn't exist on this album and to be released right after the Eras Tour, where you are celebrating all your best music and your fan base is fighting tooth and nail, scratching, clawing, trying to get any dollar they can to listen to the anthology of all your music together that they most love and appreciate, and you give them this album that's different from you, and it doesn't contain those big bangers, but it contains this wonderfully raw, emotional multitude of tracks. It's beautiful, and it's such a gutsy move, ballsy move. Just that is a big baller move of, yeah, I'm here and I'm ready to go and I'm the best in the world. And that's such, I love that mentality. I love that, and that's a star at her best, especially now that she owns all her own. So tremendous. And so I can't gush enough about it. If you would even told me a week ago, hey, you're going to be doing a review of the new Taylor Swift album for your podcast, I would have said, you're out of your fucking mind. Because again, I would have been like, oh yeah, I'm softening on her. I'm kind of getting with it, but whatever. I'm not there. And just finally giving this album a chance, giving her music a chance, and being far more open-minded and growing up in a lot of ways. It really hits home the fact that I'm like, yeah, she's great. Her music's great. Love it. And I can't gush enough about it. So I will officially declare here on the ONETA Show, what is this, episode 13, 14, whatever the hell it is. I don't know. I can't remember. I've done too many of these already, and we just started the show a couple months ago, but I will officially declare it here on air after having to ask myself the question, are you a Swiftie? I'll say it. Evan Davies is officially declaring himself a Swiftie. Hopefully we can make some money off that later by making some Swiftie merchandise for the Etsy shop. Which, by the way, let's go check that out now. Because go check out our Etsy shop, ptecreative.etsy.com. If you're so compelled by Taylor's music to support artists, like you should be, you really should go check out our Etsy shop. Now, so as we'll go away from Dan Wheeler's music, which was already great. Head on over to the Etsy shop. We got really cool stuff. We just made our some cool sales over with the mystery packs of Pokemon. If you love Pokemon from our other work on our channel, love to give it to you. But we got other fictional stuff. We've got nature-themed things. Just home stickers. We got fashion stuff up here with the you hate to see it line. A lot of cool, fun stuff, and we're adding even more. And I'm honestly thinking I may end up making, some Taylor Swift merchandise, which could be interesting and fun, and something I never ever thought I would do. So if you do want to go support an artist, I would greatly appreciate it. So go to ptecreative.etsy.com, and if you want to help yourself out because you'd be helping me out, I want to help you. Use the promo code BLISS, BLISS, at checkout on any order of 2 items or more, and you yourself are going to get 20% off your total order. Go do that. Go help me out. Go support an artist, which would be absolutely tremendous. And I'd love to get you some work. And if there's something that you kind of like, but it's not exactly your style, just message me. I'll try to help you as much as I can make something that you want. It helps you and it helps me. So I'd love to try to help you out and go do that. That is the Etsy shop promo, and that is our true evaluation of Tortured Poets Department album from Taylor Swift. Can't believe the words out of my mouth. I fucking love that album. It's a great album, and you should go check it out for yourself if you haven't, and really pay attention and get into it. And as someone who is emotional and likes getting in tune with that, especially from a storytelling element, perfect for that. So go check that out. And if you do want to check out some more content, I will tell you this. Hey, man. Go check out our other stuff. Monday, every time on our YouTube channel, we got more Pokemon card openings. Same thing on Fridays, but we also have the rotation on Fridays with some other stuff. Tuesday, you already know it. It's the ONETA Show, brought to you by PT Creative. That's on Spotify and on YouTube. Wednesday, we're back to YouTube exclusive stuff, but we do have a little bit going out on socials under PT Creative with our custom Pokemon region, or Fakemon region, if you will, the Halzori region. And Thursday, it's the ONETA Football Show. So if you are a Swiftie that wants to learn a little bit more about the game because you want to support Taylor's boyfriend, Travis Kelce, just like I do, because beyond the Packers, the Chiefs are a great happiness in my life, and I am a fan of the Chiefs. If I can't have the Packers, I go Chiefs as my number 2 team because I love Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, good old Big Red, Andy Reid. If you want to go into that, or if you just love football and you're listening to me because you thought, hey, it'd be interesting to see him cry on camera, fine. Go check out the ONETA Football Show on Thursdays, and that's also available on YouTube or Spotify. And Fridays, you got the Brick Builder Show, you got the Travel Adventure Show, you got Pokemon card openings, you got Yu-Gi-Oh card openings, you got all kinds of random-ass stuff over on the YouTube channel, so I'd love for you to go check that out. So if you could, leave this a rating, like this show if you can. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. If you're on Spotify, rate the show, give us a review. We'd love to see it. Share this wherever you can, especially with someone that you think enjoy it. We'd really appreciate that. Check out the Etsy shop. Check out our socials. Do whatever you can. Make yourself happy, much like this album for me. I'll catch y'all next time on the ONETA Show. Every single Tuesday, like always. Peace, love, and hugs, fellow Swifties.